Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is not to back or not to back. I'm currently at Gamma Expo 2025, and I was traveling all Sunday, which meant I wasn't able to do a to-back or not-to-back video, which means we're doing this instead, which brings me to my second and probably more relevant point. This is very much a video in where I'm wearing my Gamefound hat today. This is very much going to have facts and details and updates, things that Gamefound has done in the past year and all of that, but it's very much wearing the Gamefound hat with all those relevant biases, and so if this is not a video for you, totally fine. I just wanted to give you that information completely upfront so you can decide if you want to continue watching and hear all the things I'm going to talk about. Which brings me back to this video. Why this video? What's going on here? Well, honestly, two things. First, I took a look at when the last time I did a full-on Gamefound video was, and I think it was 11 months ago, so just shy of a year ago, and I figured I don't mind doing one of these here and there. And secondly, because it's my to-back or not-to-back day, I usually try to do something crowdfunding related, and I was going to do a video on crowdfunding creators who I'm always looking forward to their campaigns. I don't know why, I just wasn't feeling that right now, and so I decided to do this video instead. So, what are we talking about today? Gamefound stuff. Gamefound stuff. We're going to go ahead and dive into it. For those of you who don't know, I do talk about it on a regular basis, certainly don't hide it, but if you're not aware, I am CMO of Gamefound, as well as everything I do over on Board Game Co. Very short history there, again, for those who aren't all caught up. I started doing crowdfunding videos, I started doing YouTube videos in 2019. At the time, I was a COO of an e-commerce company. When I saw the opportunity to go full-time in the board game space and try out this YouTube thing full-time, I took that jump in 2022, and shortly after, due to the combination of my experience as a COO of my last company and covering crowdfunding for 3 years very actively, Gamefound offered me a job, and I jumped at the opportunity because it's very cool to be a part of forming the future of a space that I'm so passionate about. That's the very short overview. Past that, here we are. So, this video, what are we going into today? Well, I'm going to go into a few things. I'm going to talk a few things that we've done over the past year, in case you're not fully up to date on all the various Gamefound stuff that's been happening. I will try to be keeping this more focused on things that might be of interest to the average backer as opposed to the average creator. I'll loosely touch upon some creator features and all that. I'll also be talking about end-of-year stats and a variety of things there, but again, timestamps as always to everything down below. Additionally, I do recommend, if you're interested in this kind of thing, there's actually a video I did with Crowdfunding Nerds a few weeks back. I definitely recommend checking that out, especially if you're looking for more of a back and forth conversation on pros and cons and getting into it. I'm so much more, I think, open and free there, because over here I'm always more mindful of trying to not sound too pro Gamefound because of the obvious biases at play, so I try to hedge my bets a little bit, versus there I really got into it with them in a good way. I think it was a good conversation. But I recommend checking it out if you're interested in this kind of thing. With that, let's go ahead and dive into this. So, basically, Gamefound, as always, has continued to try to add more and more to the things we do. Very much one of the big strengths of Gamefound, one of the things that we came out the gate, well, what's the right expression? That's not the right, came out the gate running. I'm not entirely sure of the expression I'm looking for there. One of the things we made sure to do, diving into the crowdfunding space, was very much trying to focus around making sure the platform had all the features you could possibly think of, and then some, trying to react and give you the features you want, and then trying to be proactive and come up with the features you haven't even thought you needed. The entire pitch of Gamefound, or one of the many pitches of Gamefound, was that it was very much built around what the tabletop crowdfunding space actually needed, as opposed to just being crowdfunding and then tabletop within it. It was very much focused around tabletop and all the associated needs. To that end, over the years, there's been tons of features that you might know about and see in terms of the way you interact with the platform, in terms of the way the stretch goals are automatic or updates, or the way it actually feels like a natural buying experience as opposed to just basically a giant PDF of trying to make it work, and then things you might not see, features you might not even be aware of, the fact that it very much handles all the VAT handling and the amount of payment methods you have on the platform, just things you might not even be aware of as a backer, but you are either very aware of as a creator, or you might not yet be aware of, but you probably should be, because they'll make your life significantly easier. I'm not going to try to rewrite everything for the past 3 years here. I'm going to be focusing on some of the more recent things, because like I said already, I haven't done a video on the channel in around 11 months on these things. To that end, some of the highlights of this past year, and again, very much highlights. If you want, I will link to the Gamefound blog down below. Basically, on a weekly basis, you get kind of the updates. Again, a lot of these are going to be more relevant to creators, of which I'm sure some of you are watching. But again, I try to be mindful of most of you are in the backer space, so I'm going to try to focus that video more towards that audience. But either as a backer or as a creator, if you follow the Gamefound blog, you'll get regular updates. Honestly, you could probably just look at the title and already see if there's going to be something of interest in there that you might want to find out more about and click to see what we're up to on the platform. We don't post like every bug update or whatever, but we post most of the major features that we're working on, and they go up on a regular basis. There's like, I don't know, 40 blog posts over 2024, all covering a variety of things that may be of interest to you. And again, some will be very backer focused where, things like, I don't even know, things like badges or whatnot, or things like the feast, the Gamefound feast. There's going to be a lot of things that are relevant to backers, and then a lot more things that are relevant to creators. Some of the highlights from this past year, aside from all the Gamefound feasts we've done, both creator-specific and general ones, we've gotten our feast pattern more in check, and we're having 60 games featured every year in the various feasts that we do. 60 games that might be of more interest. When we talk to creators, either doing specific feast events for specific creators, or doing general ones where we just put together a hodgepodge of 10 to 15 games in a single video, a single feast event and video, to try to show you the things that are coming up on the platform that might be more of interest to you. Past that, as far as features go, we redesigned the homepage in 2024, or the feedback we've gotten on that has been overall very positive. Oh, speaking of feedback, I should say, part of this is meant to be me kind of giving you updates here, but also I want your notes and feedback. You're a backer. You're someone who's backing these games. If there's something that you want to see differently about Gamefound, if there's a feature you think that is relevant, or something, again, whether it's a bug, a feature, an idea, whatever it is, by all means, either post it in the comments down below, or send me a direct email. My email's in the bottom of every video description. I have my Gamefound email and my Board Game Co email. They're both there. Feel free to either email me or post in the comments. The comments will be read, and the emails, they may not be responded to if it's about a Gamefound feature, but they will be put in the relevant feedback section internally, because again, our entire mission is to deal with what backers want, deal with what creators want, and then come up with things that both parties didn't even know they wanted. So that's kind of the feedback thing. Going back to what prompted that, like I mentioned, we redesigned the homepage of the platform, got a lot of positive feedback there. I'm curious if you've noticed or either have opinions on it. A big thing as well is PayPal and StretchPay. Like we started using PayPal payments, or giving PayPal payments access to all creators, and you can also use StretchPay through that as well. And again, these are both things that have been StretchPay we've been doing for a while now, obviously, been very well received, but introducing PayPal platform-wide and all that, we've had tons of people over the years asking for PayPal to be utilized in crowdfunding, both creators and backers alike, and we do have that for you. The app is going to be a big thing that happened in 2024. Gamefound, people have been asking for a Gamefound app for a very, very long time. There have been excellent reasons as to why it took so long, but at the very end of the day, this goes back to the feedback part. At the end of the day, while there were and still are good reasons as to whether an app should or shouldn't be the focus, it is one of those things that was consistently requested. And if it's consistently requested, it's something we want to deliver. And so we have delivered the app. A ton of you are using it and benefiting from it, from the notifications, making it much more easy, being able to jump into the app and immediately see a little bell of the project details you have to go ahead and fill out to get your project shipped to you on time. It makes all of that significantly easier. And so I hope those of you who utilize the app are happy with it. And I hope those of you who don't utilize the app are either happy with the mobile-friendly version of the site, or alternatively give the app a shot and see how it is, because I'm not even an app user for the most part. Like I never really use crowdfunding apps on my phone. I'm mostly to me, crowdfunding is a desktop thing, not a phone thing. But when I do, the app has been great, especially and particularly as far as knowing which pledges I'm missing details on. I find that the app has been incredibly helpful there. Past that, we've been remodeling the notification center. That's part of what we see in the app as well. There's also been the Gamefound. A recent thing we just did that's been very well received is the Gamefound community playtesters. This is an initiative in which we are connecting creators, people who are making the games, designing, publishers, all that, with basically playtesters. And this is not a paid initiative. There's no payment switching hands. You can't pay. You're not paying for feedback, anything like that. Rather, what you're doing is you're supplying games. The creators are supplying games to effectively vetted playtesting groups who can can then give their feedback. So you can basically be a part of helping develop the games that you might be backing. And I'll link to that down below. Well, I'll either link to the general blog section or that specific one, but there's a way to apply if you think you and or your group are interested or want to be eligible. We can make sure to connect you and see what we can do there. Past that, one of the things I've been doing recently is the People's Behind the Meeples podcast. Speaking of recommending podcasts over on Crowdfunding Nerds, I've been doing aiming for monthly. It's been a little slower than that. I think we've been doing it for 5 months and have had 4, but there's 2 in the queue. So we're a little behind as far as just behind on monthly. But the People's Behind the Meeples is an initiative we started doing where I specifically reach out and talk to creators on the platform, creators who have run campaigns on Gamefound, and we're specifically trying to target smaller or medium-sized creators, at least at first. I have no clue who we'll talk to down the road. I'm not averse to talking to anyone, but we specifically want to use this as an opportunity to highlight those smaller and medium-sized creators. And so there's been a lot of, well, again, handful of episodes over there if you want to check them out, as far as just getting an opportunity to get a little bit more information about the designers or the publishers behind your favorite games and what their journeys have been like, the things they've learned, the challenges they've faced. This is very much not a Gamefound focused podcast. If you listen to the episodes I've put out so far, we barely talk about Gamefound. We may talk about crowdfunding. We barely talk about Gamefound. This is not meant to be a way to promote Gamefound. This is meant to be a way to promote the creators on the platform. So you can go ahead and check that out. On the creator side, there's been a ton more. But again, I don't want to heavily go into the creator side. One of the things, the improved analytics dashboard is going to be a big one. AdFound as well. AdFound has been a big thing we've been pushing recently. That's, I'll talk more about it in a second because it's going to be relevant to some of our goals in 2025. So I'll come back to AdFound very shortly. That's kind of the general some of the highlights of the things we've been doing over the past year, over 2024. As far as end of year stats, Gamefound has had we're very happy with the year we've had in 2024. We did pretty well in 2020. Well, how far back do I want to go over here? We've been on an upwards trajectory as far as the funding, the total projects, the total backers has consistently been growing, outpacing the crowdfunding growth in general in the tabletop space. Gamefound has been vastly eclipsing the percentage growth of tabletop growth because we've been doing well. We've been managing to bring more and more creators on board, and far more importantly, we've been keeping those that we've brought on board. I'd have to double check our exact stats, but I think something like, 87% of creators, something like that, who have launched a campaign with us have chosen to continue to come back. It's hard to measure because how much time do you need before you measure and when do you start counting things, but we've had a very successful rate as far as creators who have launched with us and have chosen to come back, which to me personally is the metric I care about the most. I'm not trying to get someone to use Gamefound. I'm trying to get someone to be happy with Gamefound, to be happy with the result, their projects, whether it's features, whether it's funding, whatever the reason is. Anytime I bring a creator on board, I want them to be happy with the platform. And those creators have been, which is why we've been able to see tremendous year-over-year growth. In 2024, we had 8 of the top 10 most funded board games were funded on Gamefound. And I am being specific here. This is board games, not the full tabletop category. I'm excluding RPGs and all that. And the reason, 2 reasons. Well, first of all, the numbers do look better. And also because I'll get to RPGs in a second, that comes back to some of our goals in 2024. But 8 of the top 10 most funded board games were on the platform this year. I think if I'm not mistaken, and this one I didn't prep this for the video, I think last year was 6 out of 10, which again, we're seeing good numbers there, which means I hope we can get to 9 out of 10 or even 10 out of 10 most funded in 2025, but I'll have to wait a lot longer to see how that goes. We had Cyberpunk 2077, we had Lands of Evershade, Heroes of Might and Magic, DC Superheroes United, Cthulhu Death May Die Forbidden Reaches, the Puerto Rico Deluxe Edition, Grim Coven, Castle Burgundy reprint, Dungeons and Lasers Caves, and Valheim were the top 10 most funded campaigns on the platform. To be clear, those are the top 10 most funded on Gamefound specifically. We had 8 out of the top 10 in the full umbrella of all platforms and all crowdfunding as far as board games go. Now in 2025, we're doing pretty decently. We have 2 out of the top 2 most funded board games in 2025, at least so far. Obviously, 2 out of the top 2 is very specific because that's going to cover Massive Darkness and Star Trek Ascendancy. Star Trek Ascendancy, which is actually currently live as of me filming this video. But if you're looking at the top 10 and the top 10 board games, we currently have 5 of the top 10, but I am pretty optimistic that that number will grow. I know a variety of the projects we have lined up for the year, and there's some big projects coming down the pipeline this year, and Gamefound has a lot of big campaigns planned. But for those top 5, we have 5 out of the top 10 most funded board games, at least so far. We have Massive Darkness, Star Trek Ascendancy, Aventuria, Bullet Cubed, and Earth Under Siege are in the 5. They're amongst the top 10 most funded board games in 2025 so far. So overall, we're pretty happy with how the platform has been doing. We're pretty happy with, again, the biggest thing for me is that repeat creator business. The fact that people keep coming back and relaunching their subsequent campaigns, it means that they're happy with something. Again, whether it's the audience, whether it's the amount of backers, whether it's the funding total, or whether it's the features, I don't care why someone is happy. I just care that they are happy. That's a lie. I do care why someone is happy, but I'm more focused on the fact that they are happy. Separately from that, I like to know what they are happy about and what they're not happy about. I mean, part of what I'm going to be doing right now, I mentioned I'm at Gamma right now. A big part of me being at Gamma is getting the opportunity to talk to creators, both those who have used the platform and those who I want to get to use the platform. But in both cases, I want to know what is and isn't working for them and how we can best meet their needs. That is ultimately the only way you can grow anything is to make sure that the people, and again, that includes you as well, the backers as well. One of the things I didn't mention this at all earlier, but one of the things I've seen tremendously over the past few years has been very, I don't know if satisfying is the right word, but satisfying might be the word I'm going to use for now, is I remember when I first took this job, August 2022, if I'm not mistaken, I was without a full-time job for like 6 months. I went full-time YouTube, and then, 4 months later, I got a job offer. But in August of 2022, when I first took the job at Gamefound, I remember one of the things that was always a challenge, was the general perception in various spaces. If you went on Facebook, if you went on wherever, and there was a conversation around platforms, there were a lot of people who reasonably and rightfully were doubtful had a creator asking where they should launch, people would say Kickstarter, because, Gamefound didn't have enough campaigns, didn't have enough traffic. Who's really browsing Gamefound? And one of the things that has been tremendously gratifying might be the better word I'm looking for, not satisfying, gratifying. One of the things that's been very gratifying to see over the past 2 years is every single time, and I mean every single time, I don't mean most times, I mean every single time, there is a question to the audience, to the people backing games, about where they want to see their campaign launched, and whenever a creator asks them, and we track this, we have all the links and everything, but every time there's been a question to the audience as to where they want the campaign, the overwhelming answer has been Gamefound. And I want to be clear, not every single person, but the overwhelming answer has been Gamefound. At the end of the day, the audience, the type of audience that has a Facebook account and is in a board game group, those people are very much, majority seem to prefer Gamefound. Whether it's because of features like Stretch Bay, whether it's because of the ease of the platform, whether it's because of frustrations with the other platforms, whatever it is, it's been tremendously gratifying to see that shift over time. And so, like I was saying before I got sidetracked there, being able to make sure that the backers are happy, being able to make sure that the creators are happy, that is everything as far as goals go. Speaking of goals, our goals in 2025, the two biggest goals we have are focusing on trying to continue to grow and expand our smaller creator audience, I'd say. I think we have done a tremendous job of capturing large creators, a good job of capturing medium-sized creators, and one of the areas we're trying to focus on is finding better ways to serve our smaller creators. It's a balance, trying to figure out how to get everyone on the platform and be able to meet everyone's needs as best as possible. The other area we're trying to grow heavily on is RPGs, role-playing games and all that. That's an area where we've seen tremendous growth in 2024 relative to 2023, but it's very much an area that we are continuing to try to grow into, because we've done, again, going back to just what we've done practically, we've managed to do a great job capturing the overall board game market, and now the question now is to continue to take what we've learned there and to take all the strengths and opportunities and features and all that and carry it forward to the RPG market and be able to meet that same degree of, again, creator satisfaction ultimately is what we're looking for over there. And to that end, we have a lot of things planned as far as things we've already done and things that we are doing. A big one I touched upon briefly is AdFound. AdFound specifically is a marketing opportunity that is specifically designed to help smaller creators be able to utilize, all the know-how that we have as far as our marketing goes, but to be able to do so at a lower rate, at a easier degree of access. It is specifically designed to be there for smaller creators and medium-sized creators as well. I mean, anyone can use it, but the main goal of it was to grow our smaller creator audience and continue to build tools that help them run their campaigns as best as possible. If you are someone who is considering trying to run a campaign on Gamefound, whether it's a smaller creator, an RPG, or anyone for that matter, or reprints specifically. I think the last time I did this video, 11 months ago, I mentioned that our reprints, Gamefound's reprint numbers, which is one of the best areas as far as being able to track data, just actual data, not perceptual results, but actual hard data. I mentioned last year, I mentioned last year that with the data we tracked, reprints on Gamefound, meaning a reprint from Kickstarter to Kickstarter was doing 30% higher, and a reprint from Kickstarter to Gamefound was doing 70% higher. Those numbers are lower. We've specifically redone those numbers for the past year, focusing on 2024 campaigns specifically, just to make sure that our numbers are the most up to date and that we're capturing where crowdfunding is as opposed to where it necessarily was. And overall, the numbers have shifted, but they're still very, very positive. They still generally show that the numbers on Gamefound are there. For 2024 campaigns, and I talked about this on that Crowdfunding Nerds episode as well, but for 2024, and again, if you're a creator, you want to reach out, we'll share whatever data you want as far as being able to see this for yourself and question whatever you want to question. But right now, a Kickstarter to Kickstarter reprint does 3.6% higher, and a Kickstarter to Gamefound reprint does 56% higher. That's generally, it's as close to apples as you can get, and it shows the general idea that we are able to deliver results for creators, that there is a community of backers who are there backing these games and happy to get these games, happy to, well, just, if you're launching a reprint, if you're launching a RPG, if you're a smaller creator and you're looking for what we can do for you, whoever and whatever you are, reach out to me. Either I'll take care of you or we'll get you connected to someone who can take care of you. I'm very happy with where Gamefound has been in 2024. We have big goals for 2025, and it's part of my job is to see what we can do to make those goals happen. And that's your kind of semi-Gamefound update video. I don't do these too often on the channel very specifically. I try to keep the two things as separate as possible as far as the way I act, while obviously being as transparent as possible as far as the fact that I do have these two roles, because especially if you're covering a crowdfunding video or whatnot, you do need to know the potential conflict, bias, all of those things. So I try to be transparent while acting completely separately, but every once in a while there will be an update video on this platform because it's weird. It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing. It's a big part of my life, and it's that aspect. On the one hand, I kind of would talk about it more just naturally. On the other hand, I try to keep things separate so that I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird balance. Anyways, hopefully I'm doing as well as I possibly can managing that balance. One of the nice things that I always love when I see is when someone who, because like when I got the job at Gamefound, I made a big video announcing it and all that, and a big part of it is transparency. And there were a lot of people who were bothered by that conflict. You're covering crowdfunding, you just took a job at one of the crowdfunding companies. How can you do that? And one of the consistent things has always been a delight to see is when people say, hey, I came back, a year later, and your coverage doesn't feel like it's changed at all. Like consistency is the main thing I'm looking for above all else. Anyways, I'm doing that rambling thing I do at the end of the videos now, so I'm going to go ahead and close this off. I'm Alex Radcliffe, CMO of Gamefound, and I hope you have a good one.